Well, should we move to provisions?
Yeah, this is actually my favorite part.
All right. All right.
Yeah, this is my favorite part because, okay, so, we're humans, right? We're selfish. We want to know what's in it for me, right? So we've been talking a lot about employers, but as an individual, like, what does this mean to me? How does this change my life? So that's why I think I like this area so much. So the first thing is the age for required minimum distributions has changed. And I think to me, it's changed in a good way. Very simple way to remember it. If you were born 1951 through 1959, the age that you will be required, and when we say RMDs, that's what it stands for, required minimum distributions. This is when you have to start taking that qualified money, not including your Roth money, but anything else that's designated for retirement. So any of that tax deferred money, whether it's in 401ks, IRAs, annuities, if it's tax deferred money, you have to start taking a certain amount of it by a certain age. And if you're born 1951 to 1959, your RMD age is now 73. If you're born 1960 or later, it's now 75. So originally, before the Secure Act passed, it was 70 and a half, a little bit confusing. Then when the Secure Act passed in 2020, it went to 72. And then now it has gone to 73 and 75, respectively. It is interesting to note that anyone who turns 72 this year in 2022, nobody's starting RMDs this year. So whether you're turning 72, if you're turning 72 this year, you would not be starting RMDs. Nobody starts RMDs in the year 2023, which I think is fascinating. It's kind of fascinating. We'll have another skip year again in 2033 when the age goes up to 75.
So if you've already started RMDs,
then you continue
under the old regime. You don't get to stop now if you turn 72.
No. So if you turned 72 in the year 2022, then you would have been required to start your minimum distributions, you continue. There's no going back once you start them. But if you were going to turn 72 in 2023, that you get a year reprieve. You're actually going to not start until 2024. Yeah. And like I said, just remembering if you're born in the 50s, your RMD age is 73, 1960 or later, 75. It's kind of the simple way to remember it. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
There's some changes too with catch-up contributions. Actually, before that, just speaking on the RMDs, just kind of staying on that same topic. If you fail to take your RMD, the penalty was really high. If you guys recall, it was 50%. Mm-hmm. So if you missed taking your RMD or you didn't take it in a timely manner, it was a 50% penalty of whatever the RMD was, which is, again, pretty steep. They have changed that now with the Secure Act 2.0. So they have dropped that down to 25%. And then in addition to that, you have this 2-year window to correct it. And if you correct it within that 2-year window, that penalty now drops to 10%. So that's a significant change also in regards to the required minimum distributions.
That happens more than you would think, where people miss it.
Yep. We, as individuals, need to be more responsible for our retirement, but the education has never been there.
Right.
Has never really taught us how to be more responsible. And that's one of those things. And then to add to the confusion, prior to the original Secure Act, it was 70 and a half. And that's always like, huh? And then you could take 2 in 1 year, or you could wait till next year and take 2 that year. It was always very confusing. And then pretty quickly between 2020 and 2023, we moved it to 72, now 73. And then in 2033, it will go to 75. So it's kind of a moving target. Mm-hmm. But yes, just knowing that the penalties, if you do make a mistake, have been significantly reduced is comforting to know, I think.
So do you want to move to the catch-up contributions now?
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So as we mentioned earlier, if you have a corporate sponsored or company sponsored 401k, you can contribute up to $22,500. If you are over the age of 50, you can contribute an extra $6,500 to bring it up to $30,000. But the Secure Act 2.0 put another little caveat in there. Now, this is another one of those provisions that doesn't take effect immediately. It actually doesn't start, I believe, until 2024. Whereby if you are between the ages of 60 and 63, you can make a catch-up contribution. Right now, it's up to $10,000. So rather than $6,500, it's actually $10,000, but it's indexed for inflation. So it's going to vary a little bit, but I would say at least $10,000 that you would be able to do. And then in each year subsequent during that 3-year period, it's indexed back to inflation. So it may, or I think it's like 150% of what you contributed the year before. There's a formula for it. I'm not 100% clear on it because it hasn't gone into effect yet. But I think, again, the underlying intention is those folks between the ages of 60 and 63, as they're getting closer to retirement, it gives them a little bit extra boost, to be able to put more towards retirement savings than they would have normally. And that's the intention with it. What the actual final amount ends up being, we'll see what happens in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But the age is something I do want people to pay attention to, because if you're 63 this year and this doesn't take effect until 2024, you'll be out of the window to do this. So yeah, it's starting, if you're age 60 to 63, 2024 or later is when this option would be available to you.
And so does that, during those 3 years, does that replace the normal catch up, or is that in addition to?
That is their catch up. That's a great question. My understanding is that it's what their catch up contribution is different than just somebody who's just over the age of 50.
Sure.
They
Okay.
have a little bit more that they can put in than the average person can put in, who may be like 55 or 58.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Any thoughts or interpretation on why 60 to 63 and not beyond 63?
That's a great question. And I don't know why they did the cutoff at 63. I do know, and I don't know what you guys experience in your practice, but in my practice, this is when people are really starting to get serious. Like, oh boy, retirement's right around the corner. I need to do something about it. I would think that they would extend that at least maybe until you actually do retire, or to at least 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, they went to 63 with it. I wouldn't be surprised if that changed or gets amended in the future. But right now, as it stands, it's 60 to 63. Yeah, I don't know why they cut it off at 63.
What's the current earliest you can do Social Security?
62.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed at all, right?
No. So that the Secure Act 2.0 does not impact Social Security, not directly anyway.
Yeah.
No changes there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that, like, if it was 63, I could see that they were for when you could start drawing it now. I would say, oh, maybe they're just doing that so you can't take bigger deductions in a year getting Social Security, reducing your Social Security.
Well, here's the thing, though. In order to be able to contribute, you have to make at least that much money, right? In order to contribute to the 401k or do the catch-up contribution, you have to make at least that much. If you are taking Social Security, there's something called the earned income reduction. So if you start taking Social Security before your full retirement age, which if you're born 1960 or later is 67. So if you started taking it at 62, you already have a reduction. And then if you continue to work and own over a threshold, and I believe the threshold's around $20,000, now you further reduced your Social Security benefit. And so it would make no sense to take your Social Security while you're still working and doing these catch-up contributions. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, the Roth elections. Oh, that's another big one. That's a really good one. So it used to be, not that long ago, like 2 months ago, where if your employer makes a matching contribution, it has to go to the traditional side of your 401k. So we've already talked about like this 401k umbrella, where you have your traditional tax deferred side, you have your Roth after tax side, right? And the employer can only contribute to the traditional side of your 401k so they can get the tax deduction. The Secure Act 2.0 has changed that. Now you as the employee can have the option of having your employer contribution be put into the Roth side. But just like your own contribution is, it will be taxable. If you put it into the Roth side, you're going to pay the tax on it. It's going to get added to your income. And if you continue to have it on the traditional side, then it will continue to be tax deferred. Either way, the employer still gets to take the tax deduction for it. I think that is a brilliant change because it gives employees as well as employers more flexibility and more options in terms of what bucket to put those contributions into.
So as an owner and an employee, so if I'm contributing to my Roth and my employer is matching that, I am in a sense deducting my Roth contribution then, right?
The company is deducting your
Right.
Roth contribution, right?
Right.
But you, on your personal taxes, on your W-4s or W-2s that you get, it's going to be added to your income. The tax is being paid on it. It's just who is paying the tax on it at this point in time. It's going to be you as the employee. The company will still get to take the tax deduction because it's an expense.
Right. Right. But it's the only time that any Roth contribution at all can be deducted.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So if you are an owner and an employee, in theory, you're taking the deduction only on the employer match.
Correct. Correct. Yep. But you are correct. That's an interesting observation. Yes, I think that is the only time that a Roth contribution can actually be tax deductible to someone. Right. Yeah. That gets me excited. Sorry.
Yeah. Anything else in this category?
Not that I see, not that comes to mind immediately. There is a provision in there in regards to annuities. I'm a little bit on the fence about annuities. Annuities have a bad reputation, and it's an earned bad reputation. It is shifting a little bit, but I'm still, until I actually see what the annuities look like, and basically what the change is that employers can start to offer annuity options within their retirement plans. Prior to the Secure Act, they were very, very restricted in doing so. So until it actually kind of materializes a little bit, it's hard for me to say whether or not this is a good thing. I think it will depend on what the annuity options are for any particular plan. But overall, having more choices within your plan, again, is it is a good thing at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we move to college loans and savings? And I think maybe the big one that we were kind of talking about earlier is the college savings, 529 now can be essentially rolled over and converted into a Roth.
Yeah, let's talk about those.
But let's launch into it and kind of take it as one big, hey, this isn't.
Yeah.
These are kind of some outside awesome options.
Yeah, there you go. You want to kind of lead into it, Steve, or do you want me to just go?
I think maybe the Roth, the college savings 529 to a Roth one is the one that I would, is the kind of most interesting to me. And, I think, I don't know that there's necessarily a whole lot of like great maybe planning ideas behind it, but maybe more, as we were talking earlier, people maybe don't need to worry so much about what if I'm funding this and my kid doesn't go to college, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. So I like 529 plans. And I like them because they're portable and they're a big step up from like the Coverdale savings that used to be the kind of the big thing back in the day. So being portable means that you can change the beneficiary. But now with the Secure Act 2.0, they have added another option in here, which allows you to roll over up to right now it's up to $35,000 into a Roth IRA. So the kind of thought behind that is that if your kid doesn't go to college, you would be able to give them a good start for retirement by rolling this over into a Roth. Now, there's a couple of things here that I find very interesting. The first one is 529s are portable, meaning that you can change the beneficiary. So if your kid doesn't go to college, you could put that money into your own Roth and fund your own retirement or somebody else's retirement more so than maybe your child. So you have a lot of options there. I really like that. The one caveat with the 529 plans is they have to be in existence for 15 years before this option to roll over into a Roth is available. So if you started them for your kids when they were little and they get to be, 20, 25 years old, it just becomes apparent they're not going to use it, then you can make the decision to do that now. But if you started one for your kid when they were 15 and they're 18 now and they're more interested in backpacking through Europe or through the Appalachian Mountains than going to college, you don't have the option of moving that over to the Roth. You'd have to wait the 15 years. That's kind of the stipulation with it.
So start one early.
Start it early.
Even if you fund it just, a little bit at a time, right? I mean, as long as it's in existence, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the importance of this is get it open, get it started, but you have a lot of options whether your child goes to college or not.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've always loved the portability of them, because if your oldest child doesn't go to college, doesn't mean your next child won't. You can always roll them down. Or as a parent, if you chose to go back to school later on in life, maybe get your master's degree or something, you can change the beneficiary to yourself and use that money for college, but now you can use it for retirement. And I just think it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Rolling it over into a Roth, you're keeping that money, tax protected, tax free, forever. I mean, I think that was a brilliant option that they added with this passage of this most recent passage of the Secure Act.
Yeah.
Really gives you a lot more options. And as a parent, there's always that fear of, I don't want to invest in something like we see a lot of with the prepaid college tuition, right? But there's always that fear in the back of your head. Like, what if they don't use it and it's wasted? With 529, especially with the options available now, it's never going to be wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether it goes to retirement or whether it goes to education, it will go to good use. And I think that's a great feature that they have added with this. A couple of other things unrelated to, in regards to student loans, if you have a student loan, your employer now has the option of making a contribution that is tax deductible to them to your 401k in the same amount that your student loan would be. It's like they're making your retirement contribution so that you can pay your student loans. And I think that's another really neat feature they've added, especially right now with all of the controversy around paying off student loan debt right now. I think that's a nice option to know that your employer would be able to do that for you. And then lastly, and again, as a planner, I think this is fantastic. They've added some other stipulations in here where your employer can now set up emergency savings accounts for you. They're not tied to your retirement account, but they are done through payroll deduction, just like your retirement contributions are. You can fund those up to $2,500. And you also have the option of being able to tap into your retirement money in the event that you are affected by a natural disaster. And I'm going to speak about this for just a second, because I live where Hurricane hit, as you guys know. So we are in a federally declared disaster area. And so when this change came with the Secure Act, it's interesting to me because this is what's going on in my life right now. Right. And this is what's going on in my clients' lives right now. So the change that was made with the Secure Act allows people to borrow up to $22,000 from an IRA or from a 401k for expenses directly related to a national disaster. So you cannot live in a national declared disaster zone and decide that you want to take a $22,000 cruise, because, I can take that money because this is where I live. It has to be, you have to be able to show that you had a direct economic impact as a result of this disaster. That's what you need the money for, but you can take it without penalty. And that's kind of the big piece. So I like, especially since that's what's kind of going on in my neck of the woods, that option is available because some people truly do need it.
So they kind of took what they had put in place. They had the COVID related distribution without penalty, and you could spread it over 3 years. I know that part's probably
right.
Different, but,
Right.
It's similar to
that's
that.
actually, they did this one mirrors almost exactly like that COVID one.
Exactly.
Spread it over the 3 years.
You can, okay.
Yeah, and you can repay it and get the tax on. It's really it was a slick thing, and after the COVID thing made a lot of sense. I mean, even the smaller emergency savings plan of the 2,500, and then the 1,000 that you can take out of the plan, like they're not huge dollar amounts. I mean, the 22,500 is, but the savings plan and other thing, not a huge dollar amount, but it also helps with the liquidity discussion that some people that's tough for people when they make these contributions, that my money's stuck in there and drilled 10% penalty.
Right.
Well, what if something happens?
Yep. That's a really, really good point that you make, because the liquidity issue is a concern for a lot of folks, and the tying up of your money, especially if you're younger in your 20s and 30s. You're like, what do you mean I can't touch this money until I'm in my 60s? Like, again, we are, instant gratification animals. So we need to have those incentives, and we need to have those options available to make it more attractive to save for our retirement, but also address what we have going on right now and having access to that money if we need it. Yeah, for sure. So I think they've made some really, and you're right, it mirrors almost identical to what the CARES package was.
Yeah.
But they've kept that in place with federal disasters. And again, living in an area that's greatly affected by that, it is very helpful for some people to have that option, or even just to know they have that option. Yeah.
Well, I think due to time, we should probably wrap this up. We'll definitely have to do the global planning and tax one soon.
Yeah. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah. And again, appreciate you joining us and educating us on this as well too. I know I learned a lot during this. I took a fair amount of notes on it also.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for asking me. My pleasure. I send you guys lots of warm weather and sunshine. We have it. So
I'll let you know in 3 months when we get it.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, awesome. Yeah. Again, thanks for being on, and to anybody that's watching this, go like all the socials, and however we usually close these out. Steve usually should bring up the socials, I guess I did. But like our socials, check out our page, and share this video with other people. Help them know more about the Secure Act.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.